Can anybody give me a definition for the word prejudice? Anybody? Okay.
Somebody that judges you based on how you look and where you come from.
Basically having hatred towards somebody's religion, race, sex.
How many here are prejudiced? When you feel prejudice towards either a person or a group, did you ever think about the reasons why?
No. Just after.
After?
After someone may ask me why I don't like that person, then I'll actually think about it. I'm like, dang, why didn't I like that person for real?
I'm sure everybody here has either felt a prejudice towards somebody, been a victim of somebody else's prejudice, or just stood around and listened to all the gossip about this person and made their choices not knowing the person, just based on the gossip. After you've written the story that you'd like, we're going to use the stories as a way of opening up a dialogue to talk about prejudices so that everybody understands why they're prejudiced.
When you reread your stories, you're going to close your eyes and visualize what you wrote. Where did it take place? Who else was involved? What time of day it was? What were the people wearing? What else was in the surrounding environment? And kind of have a mental picture or image in your own mind before you even start to draw.
It's crazy that I'm prejudiced against Cubans, considering that I'm part Cuban myself. But I'm also Puerto Rican, so that's probably why. My Puerto Rican side gets annoyed and aggravated by my loud Cuban side.
People, when they discriminate, they think they're better than you and that they can do that. And what we all have to do collectively is talk about this. And when somebody says something to you that's offensive like that, you say, where do you come from? And where do you get the right to speak to me that way? You're no better than me. We're all the same.
I walk into the store to look at the beautiful purses and clothes I saw from the window. Without touching the purse, I lift up the price tag to see the price. And an amazing price of $500, but I smiled and thought maybe one day I could buy it. As I considered the impossibility of owning the expensive bag, the worker looked directly at me and with a nonchalant smile and came over and said, "Can I help you?" I said no thank you and continued walking around the store, and she followed me every move. I felt the true feeling of being black. Maybe because I was black, she felt like I couldn't afford this expensive purse. But I just kept cool and just left with a smile.
She was judging me based on what she saw. Just because I'm darker than she was perceived, this thought that I was going to steal something from the store. I decided to leave because I didn't like the way I was being treated. To this day, I do not go back to the store. I don't want to be judged just because of my skin color.
Racism is still alive, which shows that society is not developed, and I think racism is stupid.
My friend and I didn't like him. His culture and religion was very different than ours.
Think about all of the things you missed out on. Think about all of the people who you could get to know and become friends with if you didn't have prejudices.
My stepfather doesn't like gay people. He hasn't really specified why he doesn't like them, but I've heard him say it's the way they dress. He doesn't think that they should dress like the opposite sex. If you're a man, dress like a man. If you're a woman, dress like a woman. He would say, my stepfather is very prejudiced against gay people because he categorizes the few gay people he's seen dressed like a woman into one category and thinks all gay people dress like that. I, on the other hand, believe that you should not judge a whole group of people based on the one or two people you've seen and don't even know. I honestly think that the way gay people dress does not affect anyone, including my stepfather.
This is Steve Rothaus.
I cover the LGBT beat at the Miami Herald.
What does that mean?
Okay, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender.
Well, would you say there's a lot of prejudice against LGBT people in our community?
Well, I think that in our community we actually have probably a more vibrant gay community than in other places. People here are more open about who they are and more accepted by our community for the most part. everywhere you'll find a degree of prejudice.
What do you think is the best way to educate the general public?
If someone has no exposure, it's a clean slate, or it is based upon, their feelings are based upon what they've been taught or what they've heard growing up. If they've never met someone who was out and they were only told that gay people are bad or evil, well, that's what they're going to know, or that's what they're going to believe. But I think that when they get to know people, that perhaps their minds open up, their minds and their hearts. Just as if you don't know black people, if you're a white person who's never met black people and have grown up in an environment in which your family and friends speak disparagingly of black people, but without knowing them, you might walk away with those feelings too. The minute you get to know somebody and go beyond their skin color and get to know them as a person, your feelings may change.
Some people say, I'm going to Aventura or something, and you say, oh, that's a white people neighborhood. But if they talk about Palaka, they say, oh, that's where the black people are. It's just not right.
If we were all like in a room, we all had a blindfold on, and we couldn't see our color or we couldn't see our size, we would then see the problems that we all have.
Ignorance begins and ends with you. Prejudice begins and ends with you. Your generation will be the first, one of the first generation of Americans to kick back the walls of ignorance.
Do you think gay rights is human rights? Really is the issue?
Yes.
And why do you think so many people are opposed to same-sex marriages when it will never affect them personally?
Ignorance.
Change equals psychological loss, even change for the better.
Why do you think there's so much fear in America for change? It's almost at a point where people are hysterical. They don't even know why. They quote things they don't understand, anything so that they don't have to recognize change.
Why do I think people are afraid? I don't know. We ran across the same problem with Cagney and Lacey. We were thrown off the air 3 times by the time it was over. And I asked Tyne Daly once, I said, who's our enemy here? And she said, fear. And I think it's just ignorance, people not knowing